Oh, lads. Hello, hello. Some humble pie to be eaten today, boys. We thought things were going to go a different way, and it is what it is. But we move on. Personally, I'm going to be taking a bit of a break from things until probably West Hamish around that time, just to not because of like social media or anything, but just to refresh and just sort of get a fresh perspective on the game because I've just been doing way too much with too little time. But we're here. We're going to talk about the United game. We're going to talk about all sorts of things. We're going to crush the narratives because, as we all say, the timeline has been crazy and the narratives have been mental. So, we're going to have Z in a bit. I think he's on his way. And let's get into it. So, boys, how are we feeling? How are we feeling?
It's calm. I kind of said, like, in the middle of the game, like, the most frustrating thing, and I had a chance to rewatch it, and I didn't feel better. The most frustrating thing was the manner of the loss, not the loss itself. And I think some of the narrative about the flow of the game is just ridiculous from my perspective, because ultimately what we got was an emotional game. We didn't really get the tactical game from either end, really, in my opinion, that you'd want to see in a top six class. It was all emotion. And so it was very much game state oriented. There was one well worked goal from each side in terms of a pattern play. And then the rest was individual mistakes and poor decision making that basically gifted goals across the front. And I'd even say for one of our goals that we scored, like, I don't think that was a well worked goal. We were poor in how we worked the first goal. Really, I think it was coming, obviously, but it wasn't like it was a well worked pattern play. It was just a smart shot by Emil and David De Gea being David De Gea. And I think we did a well worked goal for the second. But then United had a very good first goal. Sancho with a very smart inside pass to find Fred, who then reverses. And it's a good piece of play, mainly by Sancho. But then you look at the mistakes. Nuno, once again, vacating his zone. I was worried about this, and we kind of saw it again when he played. He's at fault for leaving that hole, going way too early. I didn't understand it. And then Odegaard makes a daft decision with White covering behind. He shouldn't be going to ground there. So there was a lot of poor play that basically gifted the teams the goal. And I don't think either team was really good at what they were best at. So I guess what I mean by that is us, tons of space. We weren't compact at all. Tons of space in the midfield. We weren't building up with confidence. And when we did build up, we looked dangerous. We were very dangerous, but we just didn't do it often enough. Our press was really, really disorganized. I think we need to have a conversation about the midfield pivot. There were roles on paper. I was excited by the Elneny Partey partnership, but what we would typically assume with that didn't happen. Partey was deeper than Elneny. I remember, Chris, I was talking to you mid game. Like, we kept saying it, and at first it was like, oh, it's just the first 5 minutes. He's gonna come back, and it's just ball side stuff. And I'm like, no. Even on the rematch, Partey was deeper for a lot of it, and I was just really upset with that tactical decision. And I think Nuno being in, we need to have a discussion about the fullbacks and what that does to your midfield and where you attack. Because for all the benefits that Nuno might have from build-up variability going in and out, there is a very distinct impact on our midfield from having a right back that's always inverted with Nuno, who prefers to go inside, and what that does clogging the midfield, because there were too much spaces in our front line and our back. And of course, I think I have to be fair that Emil probably had his worst game in an Arsenal shirt, but we found out later now that he did have a knock. But I mean, it made sense because there were times that he had Dallo isolated and he just couldn't run, and I'm like, that's not Emil. Like, Emil absolutely would have ripped Dallo fit, and there was quotes that come out that he is a concern for even Everton, right?
Everton, yeah.
Did take a knock, and that makes sense to me because he had a poor game. But yeah, I'm excited to get into tactics because I don't think much of what we predicted or wanted to happen from the preview did happen. I think there was an idea to press, but we weren't organized, and we did fall deeper than I would have liked. And I have a feeling as to why and what we need to change it. But for me, I'm just really disappointed in the manner of the result, because I would have almost rather that United spanked us, in a
Yep.
sense, deserved the win. I didn't feel that way. I felt that the game was there for the taking. When we decided to screw the dial, we did, and we were very dangerous and we controlled things. But when we were passive, we just gave them the opportunity to really have chances. I mean, even most of their shots in the first half that people say was a poor half, if you look back, they were isolated to outside the box chances and Ronaldo taking really poor shots. It was really not until Sancho came in and had a moment of magic, who for
Yep.
me, Sancho and Maguire were the best players on the pitch on the day. Maguire had a good game, and for me, Sancho was really, really bright. Their best part, but other than that, they didn't have good quality chances. And then for us as well, we didn't take advantage. But when we turned the dial, we did well, and it was just very, very annoying to me to pull it back to 2-2, and we were on the ascendancy, and then Odegaard has a really, really daft moment, and it's just
Yep.
self-destruction at its finest. So for me, a lot of things to discuss, but I'm just very, very upset about some of the individuals and how we decided to approach this game. Because on paper, I think everyone felt excited about the lineup because there was a lot of pressing people, right? You look at the Mohamed Elneny, the Partey, the Martinelli inclusion. I felt, okay, here we go. We're actually gonna go for it. We're seriously gonna go and press them off the park. And I saw a press, but we weren't fervent. We weren't close with our lines at all in how we did it. Oba was doing his bending run, blocking space, and I just don't think Odegaard was quick across the ground enough to cover the first ball into midfield. And from there, it kind of got disjointed. We saw Elneny higher up in a lot of the stills in the first half. Elneny is like in the hole where the number 10 should be. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. But
No. We were saying it during the game. We were saying it
what?
during the game. Literally, it was like it was so weird seeing, like, if you just switched
Mm.
Partey and Elneny that first half, I 100% guarantee none of these Partey
And mate, when we did it,
shots.
we got the second goal. This is
Yep.
what I don't understand about the narrative. I'm fully okay to admit that on an individual level, we should have a Partey discussion, because I feel what's been happening has been a direct root cause of people not knowing what type of player he is, and we continue to ask him to do things that are not his profile, that are not him. And when you look at it, and when he did step up, he broke the lines consistently. He had an
Yep.
excellent second half performance, and he was the reason that the second goal happened. And it was because he was ahead of Elneny, breaking lines, looked up, fired it off to Martinelli, who then fired an inside cutback to Odegaard, who, by the way, miskicked it, but he's there. He's in the right spot, and we get the rub of the green 2-2. Then that is at what, the 65th minute, guys? Don't
Yep.
quote me exactly.
Something around there. Yeah.
Hey, 2-2. And from that moment in time, I'm like, okay, let's take control, which we started to look like we were going to do. And then Odegaard, again, against the run of play, he does something dumb. And it's very frustrating that we seem to press the self-destruct button. Even Nuno, he received the ball and I said, mate, calm down. Mate, calm down. He's just 100 miles per
His
hour and he's
position,
going,
his
and
his
he knows
positioning was
that.
so high, though.
But mate,
Why
that's
was it
that's
so
that's
high?
him. That's him. He had to hold his position, and this was part of the experience, that when you're in this type of game, why people yell for Granit Xhaka and a structure in midfield, okay, is about a tempo of midfield, when to speed things up, when to slow things down. Okay? That is the biggest thing that Granit offers. Plus his progression passing between the lines, he offers a ton of that. Don't get me wrong. But when you have a game where Emil is, struggling to really retain the ball, right? He had a really, really poor game. You need to learn not to join the attack that quickly, that fervently. You need to hold your position, kind of pass it around, get possession of the ball, something we didn't do all game. We didn't put our foot on the ball, period. We didn't have a
No,
sustained period of possession. We kind of
it was
played
back
into
and
the
forth. It
hands
was
of it.
just like we just kind of let them have a ball for a bit. We had the ball for a bit, and we didn't really. And they were there to like, even if the people that think that people were saying had great games, like Fred. I think Fred had a decent game. I think
He had a very
he
poor first half and then a
he had
good
a
second
very
half.
poor first half, and then the second half. I mean,
Very good.
you, the assist was great. I really do think that's really a good thing. And look, the fact of the matter is if you look at this game, it's not a game where we went there, we weren't good enough, and they just smacked us around the pitch. No, it was the fact that you, we went there, we were just as good as them. I still think it was an either or game. I think either 3-2 either side. I think fine. And look, the fact of the matter is that game was there to be taken because we weren't there just to show up and be blown away. We were there and we fought for that game. But the individual errors, the fact of the matter that our press, as George mentioned, was extremely ill structured. You had for some reason we had three lines. It was very weird. Like we usually go in a 3-2-2-3 or a 2-3-2-3 at points. We were playing in three lines, and it was very confusing. Like, why were we playing? It was sort of like we sort of flattened our midfield press. There was no verticality to it, and it was very strange. Like it didn't seem
There's
like
a bit of that current, but I just want to address really there is no cockiness to the play. We didn't play well, and on the day, I can't legislate for a poor performance. I really can't, and that's what it was. There were some personnel decisions, but when we were in play and when we possessed the ball, we did a very well against this United team. And if we had done that more consistently, if we had an Emile Smith Rowe who I think was fit and who was very uncharacteristically loose in possession, he couldn't beat Dallo guys in a 1v1. When has that happened for you? And it was because, I didn't take into account, Mikel did say that there were some knocks. I guess he had a knock, and we found out that he did afterwards. And when you remove Bukayo then, who isn't able to start with that, and you don't have Emile who's secure in possession when he should be, you do leave Odegaard as the only player in that front line that's capable of receiving and putting his foot on the ball. Now, I don't think he did that great, but you can't hammer Odegaard because he's the only one able to do that high up. So now you can't sustain the ball. We don't have a physical presence up there that's not going to do it. So then what's the next best thing that you can do? Press. And that was what we even highlighted in the preview. We needed to use the press as a method of chance creation. Clearly didn't do that. I mean, we were really poor in the press off the ball as well as on it. Really,
that's why
really
I mentioned.
poor.
That's why I mentioned the verticality, George, because I just feel like we were sort of we were pressing in clumps, and it wasn't sort of coordinated. It wasn't how we usually press. We don't press like that. It was very strange. Like the positioning of our press. Like, why was Elneny, as you mentioned before, in the 10 at points? Like, it didn't make sense.
That was mental.
It's very strange how legit. I'm telling you, if you switch Elneny and Partey that first half, it's a different game. It's a different game, and I don't know why the positioning. I don't know what the tactical decision around that was. I don't know if that was just individuals not being up to speed.
Mate, you had two emotional teams. What this basically came down to was their forwards were more clinical than ours, but both displayed really poor defensive structure with a lot of space, and anyone could have run it. But on the day, they were more clinical. So credit to that. But at the same token, that was our fault for giving them a chance to do that. We shouldn't have done that. And that was within our control. So it was a very strange game. Again, that's why I say it was emotional. It wasn't tactical. It was a true emotional of the occasion top six clash where we were very uncharacteristically poor at the best things that we do. Build up and in particular being compact in midfield. Like the very things that you can talk about with not just Mikel, but like us as a team right now, Arsenal. We are compact in the middle and we have great build up. All things that just weren't on show in that game. And so it became a kind of a basketball game with United. And when you're doing that at Old Trafford and you leave yourself to having the players we had on the pitch, I mean, again, I'm going to go back. I'm annoyed that we didn't see Ainsley. Like if you're going to use Mohamed Elneny, it meant that you agreed with the analysis that you wanted Partey higher up. But then you had him deeper. And so for me, it was very confusing because, yes, he had a previous Old Trafford performance that he was very good, but so did Ainsley. Ainsley has had that as well. So if you're going based off who had a good performance at Old Trafford, they both have equal sample of a really good performance at Old Trafford. Like, that was recent. So, for me, you recognize that that was from a Lukunga standpoint, you were worried about experience there,
Yeah.
right? That would be the only, use. But then you chose Nuno, and I didn't agree. I think we do need to have a convo about what that inverted kind of fullback
Yeah, we
does,
will.
because
But I
I think
just
that
want to
there are
quickly touch on
partnerships,
experience here.
um yeah, yeah, 1 second. Like, I think there are partnerships that we need to understand from playing styles. So, Nuno Tavares, who likes to go in and out, but does prefer the inside and build up. In the first phase, he comes inside far more. And that normally suits somebody that isn't as mobile, that's more pass volume oriented, aka Lukunga. That's what you would suit as a partnership.
Look,
Kieran Tierney suits an Ainsley Maitland-Niles who has a high leggy presser that isn't a high volume passer, but somebody off the ball that can cover the wide space because you're going to bomb straight on.
yeah.
And
Oh,
so there are partnerships developing here, in my opinion, that we need to start to stick to. And we can't be mixing, just like how last season I wasn't a fan of our frontline balance. We need to start understanding some of these balance issues, because a lot of our congestion in the middle came from us focusing play on the right. And that's because we have Nuno who likes to come inside and he congests the middle. And it means that everyone on the right has to be on their A game. And for me, when you have a Kieran, he opens both sides of attack, he opens the midfield a little bit, and you start to have a lot more space. But again, it has to be said that tactical role between Mo and Partey was wrong. I don't understand the switch in roles. And for me, that is the big point of criticism, along with some of the personnel decisions. But again, what pisses me off is when I look overall at the game, I did a rewatch again and I found myself even more annoyed, because when we turned it on, we ripped them. And it's like, if we could have done that all game and played to our potential, we would have had very much what we felt all along would happen. And it was very uncharacteristic, but it happens. And I guess you move, and we'll have to probably get into some of the tactics specifically. But
look,
you know,
the one thing I want to quickly mention before I can't see wants to go. I can see it in your eyes, mate. But the I want to mention about the experience point, and I just it's interesting to me because I feel like when you look at how uh, you have players that are not just young. I don't. I'm not blaming this on players being young, and my whole thing is the lack of experience was on show in this game, because the amount of times you saw Mikel on that touchline waving players up, trying to push the team up, trying to push people forward, and they just weren't doing it. They were just dropping deep, not going. And look, it's partly due to the fact that we're still trying to work out how, and as George mentioned about the partnerships on the pitch, and we're trying to work out who works together on this pitch with this squad at this moment in time. And I just don't know why. My one criticism of Mikel has been the use of Ainsley. I think he's not used him enough for my liking, because you can see if you want someone to cover spaces, as George mentioned, you need Ainsley instead of a Mo or even a Lukonga. Like, I don't trust Lukonga to drop into that three, and I don't trust Mo particularly because Mo goes central, and he can do a job there, but it's not the same as having someone with the athleticism of Ainsley who can either drop into that three or stay higher up and recover and use his recovery pace to track back and cover for someone like a Nuno. But the other thing is we were pushed so narrow because both fullbacks were both coming in, and when you're compressing the space, and it allowed the likes of Dallo and Telles to have great games because you were pushing the Nellies of the world, the Emils of the world.
we
You're
sacrificed
pushing
the
them
wide
one
spaces
on
when
one,
turned. That was the point
and
of contact. That for me was the
yeah,
most frustrating
it
part
was.
of this
It's
game, was the
so
fact
annoying.
that
It was
you
so
had
annoying.
you had Telles and Dallo at fullback positions, and when you looked at United, the area was weak wide. We even said it in the preview. You would hope to attack the corridor of Maguire, and Telles. But Dallo coming in, the fullbacks, that left the wide spaces open and able to contest, something that we do excellently. We attack wide very well,
Yeah,
but we didn't do that in this game. And so
it
that
was too
that I think
central. Everything was too central, and it was
there was
pissing me.
that. And
No,
then
but the
you
thing
add
is,
And then you add that, Emile couldn't take the ball as an outlet. Like, I think that's huge. Typically what we look at is even in a press, Odegaard, he can struggle, but he can sometimes get out. Sometimes he can put his foot on the ball, but he's not going to do it when things are 100 miles per hour. That's not his game, right? He works typically when there's a low block and
Yeah.
he has space in the game in front of him. So we turn to Emile or even Oba as a quick flick on to release as an outlet, but both of which, were very ineffective. Particularly Emile, who just couldn't put his foot on the ball. And for me, that meant without Bukayo, right, to progress the ball, we were left with people being very narrow without a way out. Martinelli was somebody that held width with his movement, but he's not somebody that's going to come deep and bring the ball out. He's not able to do that and open it up. So we were left without an outlet, essentially. And that for me is why we relied on transitions. The game was broken up, and it was a moment of basically relying on your forwards to be clinical. And we just weren't. I mean, even the Aubameyang offside goal that was at 2-2, and
Yeah.
thank goodness he was offside. But like, if he wasn't, he's not scored. Like that would have made it 3-3. Like again, we still played poorly and had the chances there, and it was like
I don't even care about that, to be honest. I really
No.
don't. Like, I don't care. Like, my whole thing is I'm so annoying that I'm so annoyed that you have players that are so good, and I really do feel like are progressing well as a team together, and you see performances like this, and I just it's very, because like I'm not gonna look at people have asked me consistently, oh, when are you gonna what will it take? Even today, I think I saw a comment someone saying if Everton goes badly, are you going to have questions about the manager? It's not, guys. We are what 4 point? There it is. If we were to drop points against Everton, cool. It's not horrible. It's a horrible performance, and I think it would be a horrible situation. But my thing is, if you look at how the situation that we're in right now, and you look at where we're going in terms of where we have to go to in this league, we've done the hard challenges, and they're not free hits. They're disappointing performances. You go back to our Brighton performance. You go back to the Liverpool performance. I don't think any of us were sitting here being like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." No, it was it was a horrible performance, and you have to admit it was a horrible performance. Liverpool. Same with Man City. Same with Chelsea, even. But we are not going to these grounds every week, and
the issue is there's a level of debate on outside the top 6 records and top 6 records itself. That's one question. But with Ahmed's question here, I don't know, Chris, if you want to pull that up, like the issue is fans keep looking at isolated games to draw benchmarks, and that's not the way to look at a top 4 challenge. Okay. One thing that it would give us is a really poor data point from responding to a poor challenge. But we've had this data point answered from Liverpool and Newcastle. Now, what this would give us is an away day response, something that we didn't have. One of the benefits was having a Newcastle at home following a heavy defeat. But I wouldn't even call this a heavy defeat. This was more a defeat by our own making, which makes it a very different point of analysis. But your views on the manager shouldn't change and flip-flop from game to game.
Yep.
Regardless, like even if we won against Everton, this doesn't make my point of top 4 any more valid. You look at a sample of games of 10 to 15 games, you look at your records over that time, that is the record for belief. Now, predictions, we predict based on the future, based on our team and our profiles. That's why they're done preseason. But your belief on a manager and on a team shouldn't change with 1 or 2 games. And realistically, whether you're in or out on either side, it makes zero logical sense to switch based on these things. So I find those questions kind of strange. I really do. I mean, in reality, the Everton game, which, we will preview, but it's really kind of weird because they're a poor team with, I think, a March scheduled. Like, you guys in the UK have to double check, but I swear on Twitter, their fans are organizing a walkout at
in the 27th minute.
Yeah. So like a win either way. Are you really telling me that at the same token, if we do it, I have the right to sit here and then say, "See, I told you so"? That's not how this thing works. It's point scoring, and it's really, really weird. but I would like to keep it kind of just to the United game because it's a United review. So
can I say something? So obviously, can you guys hear me? By the way,
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. So I was at the game, and yeah, obviously it was a very disappointing kind of result, but I I was with the fans, and generally the fans weren't that upset at the game. They're obviously upset at the result, but the reactions that I've seen online in the past couple of days has been disgusting. Nothing but short of just reactionary. I can't believe people. Okay, fair enough. Us in Ball Over Passion, we were very excited for the game. We were very, I don't know, some would say we were very
confident.
confident, we were cocky. But the fact is, we obviously, we as fans, we are going to go to games hoping to beat Manchester United. Manchester United are one of our biggest rivals, and we always want to go and beat them. And Manchester United haven't been great this season. But to come out on Twitter and all these social other media platforms and to say the manager's this, our season's over, we can't get top four, even the most like even the most sensible fans have come out and said, if we lose against Manchester United, that's top four gone. Why is it? Why is it all or nothing? Why, like I just don't get it. And guys, I feel like we need to understand. Look, today West Ham beat Chelsea. Fair enough, but what did anybody account for when West Ham lost against Wolves? No, because you can lose to anyone within the league. I feel like people need to like stop, having their thoughts on the manager, on the team based on results. By the way, we can still get top four even if we lose another 4 to 5 games if results go our way. Like that could still happen. We could still get top four. But that doesn't mean that we should always like go on Twitter and bash the manager. And this it's like the toxicity that I've seen. I just can't. I just can't understand it. And George and Curran, like I've seen like the kind of stuff that people have been saying to you guys for being positive. Like it's not, you guys cannot be accountable for the performances that the players had on the pitch. For example, like the senior players, they should have been the ones that that should have come out after the game and and taken charge, but they didn't. And the younger players, Emil Smith Rowe, Tavares, they were the ones that were dropping off, and you guys can't account for that. So I don't know why you guys were getting this slack for it. Ultimately, it's just 3 points. At the end of the day, we lost 3 points. We go again against Everton and next, and we'll see at the end of the season where we are. All this reactionary take, I just can't do it, guys. I'm sorry. I just had to say. I think it's been a bit too much. I feel like after Manchester City there was one thing where everybody went mad, but after Manchester United, I think it's going over the top, and I've
Well, for
never
it's
seen.
me,
getting it's getting to the point.
going
Yeah,
into
go
the
ahead.
game, I was saying this game, regardless of the way it goes, will be massive for narrative because both fan bases are at a stage where a lot of Arsenal fans are saying, "Oh, this is fake," or this run we're on is fake. So this will be like the real test. And if you can't beat Manchester United, then like we're gonna fail in the long term. And Manchester United fans were going into this saying we've got a clean slate, new manager, just drew versus Chelsea. So we're going into an Arsenal game where generally they haven't been good the past 3 years. So they're going into this game thinking we have to beat these guys, and if we don't, then it's a major setback to their season. So this a win or lose, it was going to be major for narrative. So I was expecting like, say we won, there would have been massive overreaction, and if we lost, there was going to be massive overreaction, and there was, and it didn't help that the pundits who were on it like Henri and Evra, they both said some stuff I agreed with and disagreed with both ways, which like caused a lot of uproar on the timeline. But apart from that, losing to United was never going to be the determining factor for us getting top four or not, because there's one game and there's like what 20 something games left in the season, and like you losing to this game obviously is not good and is negative as it brings United closer and then therefore makes whatever they do from now on like more threatening to us. But it was bound to happen just because of the stage, and people now like think that just because me and you have a differing opinion, that warrants the toxicity and negativity, and
No, it
I'm right
doesn't.
about the manager and all this losses. But it just shouldn't happen. Like you are right in this.
I'm gonna address this because people have seemingly taken what I said and my crumb break and think it's because I've had a couple message about this that I'm running or that I'm flip flopping and I don't want to face the heat. No, it's nothing to do with that. Look, I have been. If you've seen my account on Twitter, I have been putting out player threads, scouting threads, team threads for months now. I watched at one point. I was watching like 590s, 590s, and taking notes on them a day. Okay, I'm taking a break because it's time. The shit I was getting on Twitter that night was ridiculous. I'm never opening my DMs again. I'm sorry, guys. It just can't happen.
Look, current mate, it's
no,
gonna
but
be.
I need to finish this, George. Just let me finish this. But my whole thing is, you need to stop looking at things and just putting your own opinions on other people. Yeah, I mean, I went on the terrace. Yeah, I did. But like, the thing is, I don't mind going and I don't mind taking the heat. If I was running, I wouldn't be here right now. I said I was going to take a break and I wouldn't be here. I'm not a runner. I'm more than happy to face up to things. It's a setback. It's not really. This is a perfect. Bio's got it perfect. It's a setback. It's not a defining moment. And this whole thing about top four is not a day by day, game by game basis. You look at trends. We said at the beginning of the season, you look at 10 games. That Leicester, and we looked at 10 games and we like what we saw. Then we take another 10 games. This happens in every sport. It's not just football. Basketball teams take things 5 games at a time, and that's how they build their season. Same thing goes with football fans and football clubs. You take a sample size, you analyze the sample, and then you see where you're going. Is it positive? Is it negative? This game yesterday. Yeah.
Thursday.
It was Thursday. Sorry, time has just gone crazy. But the whole point of this game was we could have killed their top 4 chances. Not that ours were ending. We are ahead of them, for God's sake. We're playing the same amount of games. This doesn't end top 4 for us. This was the game to kill their top 4 hopes, and that's what I'm trying to get across. And I think that's what all of us try to get across. It was a bad game, and.
But I want to be fair, current, like at the same time, like I want to be fair, and you have to call a spade a spade. Just because you think something will happen doesn't mean that it does happen, and it's a guarantee. Yeah. And you know what I find hilarious is on the predictions, our forum about predictions is there for everyone to see. We keep a prediction table for a very good reason. Like, you know, we look at it, and when you accumulate those points, the amount of times that we've predicted the result correct, and not just the score line, but like just the result, win, loss, or draw, far exceeds the wrongs. In fact, I think this is the first time no one took points in a game week. Every other time, somebody has taken a point in a game week. And so it's not a point scoring thing. The one thing that I want to get across is if you feel that Mikel or the team is in a false hope, this result, positive or negative, shouldn't have changed it. What Chris was saying about narrative, I get your feelings and you want to be in an emotion, but on top 4 races and season objectives, one game does not bear on that. Okay. And when you look at things from a very objective perspective, when you look at the game, the reason I was so upset, and I definitely want to get Willow's point of view too, because I haven't heard from him yet, but the reason I was really pissed off with the game and even on the rewatch is we didn't do things that we've done all season, guys. Like, this is for me more of the concern, the manner in which we lost. I don't care that we lose. I don't care whether we get the right predictions and whatnot. It's how we lost, because when we turned it on, we ripped through them. That's what pissed me off a lot more. It wasn't the fact that
George,
it was a tough game.
I also I just want to add that I feel like our legends, Thierry Henry, Martin Keown, like they've not really helped. Like, obviously, they've come in and had their own commentary. Thierry Henry before the game, he had his own thoughts on how Arsenal haven't, like, you know, been tested and all of that stuff. And then he made that comment after the game about Aubameyang. Why was he taken off? I'm telling you right now, if the opposite happened, he would have said the opposite thing. And this is not me going against Thierry Henry and putting Arteta on a different pedestal. Because look, my opinion on Arteta is completely different to what it was a whole year ago. A whole year ago, I was a massive fan of Arteta and all that stuff. Right now, I'm in a way where I just feel like, you know what, I don't really care. Right? So I'm not putting anyone on a pedestal. But the fact is, Thierry Henry's comments didn't really help, and his comments on Aubameyang didn't really make sense either. The fact that why is he going off as a captain? He was crap. He was crap that game, and him going off as a captain was more of a statement that you're one of the most senior players, and you are bad, and we're putting on a player that is not even going to be here next year.
Let me.
That's a statement.
I want because I want to hear from Willow because poor chap's been in the corner. But I'm since this guy's been talking about this entire time. How long have you been a fan of Arsenal? Well, how long have you been a fan of Arsenal? Because if you remember, Arsene Wenger used to get spammed by top four and top six clubs, 8-2, 6-0, 5-1, etc., 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 and used to beat the lower teams just like we're doing and get top four. We used to do. And another point I was saying earlier was we shouldn't be relying on other teams being bad to get top four. I'm sorry, but we have a, and that's fine. That's fine if you're a goodness. Then you should remember how we used to get top four. This is how we used to get top four. The only time in the when we were going through that 2010s run, there were times where we would literally get spammed goals at United or City or Chelsea, Liverpool, etc., etc. So I just feel like this whole thing is I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I'm trying to remind people that the game has not changed. The game has changed in terms of what happens on the pitch, but the game and how to get top four is still there.
I need to jump in because there's a lot of wrong narrative that's happening. Our record against the top six last season was actually very good and an improvement on previous managers. The issue was consistency on teams outside the top six.
Correct.
This season, it seems to have switched in terms of narrative, where we have been poor against top six sides, but we have been great against teams outside the top six. And from a top four challenge, if you have been a Gooner since 2002, like a lot of us older fans on the channel, you also know then that the race for top four relies on your consistency outside the top six. And no one is accepting of a loss. We've been very angry and frustrated throughout the entirety of the stream on this result, particularly. And the one thing that I don't kid myself is our ability to compete against, Liverpool and Manchester City at this moment in time. That if you expect us to compete at this moment in time consistently against those teams, it's a very poor evaluation of this squad and its quality. There's no accepting of it. But at the same token, I'm not going to sit there and bash under 3 games of your sample that suits your narrative when comparing to our consistency outside the top 6, which fits the narrative of why we're in 5th. So if you're really looking about comparisons between the two, ultimately over the course of the season, if we still have a poor record against the top 6, but a great record against those outside the top 6, mathematically, that is a higher probability of achieving top 4 than all of those teams, just factually. It is. So in terms of doing that, that is the more consistent part that I'm really focused on.
I'm
more
understand.
pissed at this performance.
No. Let's let Willow go because he's been saying no quietly.
Okay. Go ahead, bro.
Willow,
go ahead, man. Go on.
Everyone's rolled up tonight. It's
He's
nice to
the
see,
heart
to be honest. Everyone, am I going my thoughts on the game?
Yeah.
Just anything, bro. Narrative on top 4, the game.
Yeah.
Look, for me, I think I said this before the game and then after the game as well. Like I'm looking at this from the 7 games that we've got, so you can actually see a full 19 where we've played every team in the league. That's what I want to see. What the results at the end of that is, and we've got a very nice run. I want to see what we can do there. I in them 7 games, I said to myself, 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. And I still think that's the case with the kind of teams that we're against. The losses against United, which, out of all of them 7 teams, you'd say rather that or West Ham would be the loss. And I really do think we can do something. But I do look at the team and it's not as great as I think a lot of fans think it is. The balance, I still don't believe is there. Like, I know we go on about a DM partnership for Partey and all of this, and Maitland-Niles is the best one, and I agree. Maitland-Niles is the best partnership for Partey, but it's like we're going for a partnership between Elneny, who you know, no one's liked at the club the 7 years he's been here. We're going from Maitland-Niles, who all of us have said in the summer, you can check old podcast, that he's not a good enough DM because, you know, even at West Brom when he played in midfield, he wasn't good enough and he wasn't even the best midfielder there. But he's our best option. So it's like you're choosing between these players. You know, there's still stuff that needs to be done in this squad. And people go and talk about, oh, we spent 220 million. But I'll go back 4 years and I haven't talked to one Arsenal fan that didn't tell me 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago that this club didn't need a squad overhaul. This club did need a squad overhaul. The club was shit. The players were terrible. And even now, you look at like, I saw someone do a thing that was like the 25 plus at Arsenal. It's bloody awful. Like the players are bad. So you're having to, you know, rely on youth all the time because of the plus 25 aren't good enough because of the old regime. So it's a bit difficult. And I mean, we still make mistakes. Personally, I do want to talk about the Martin Odegaard thing because I know people have said, you know, he had a really bad game and every watch and he did have a good game or he had a better game than what they thought he was. But for me, Martin, it just, when I look at the game we played, so many times we were left, like Martinelli was isolated and so many of our attacking players were isolated. And that is why I do have a trouble with getting yourself an attacking mid who does not have athleticism or physicality. You need someone to get over there and actually be an option, help create the triangles. And Martin wasn't really good at that. I don't think
or have a physical striker that can do that for him.
But right? all that as well. But I've been saying about Aubameyang for ages, and it's I think people are starting to be like, oh shit, actually maybe we do need to drop him, and indeed we do. Like he goes missing all the time, and now even the things that we did say is good at, you know, Smith, who gave Martinelli went on a beautiful run, gave him one of them chances where, you know, 2 seasons ago he'd be putting them in the back of the net. He didn't do it. The offside goal, he fluffed it. Like the guy doesn't do anything. And like the Man U game is very hard to win when you've got Odegaard in the team, who I can't at the moment with him, who's not physical, who's not athletic in the Premier League. That is probably the worst combination. Aubameyang, who's just awful, and I personally think he's been awful for a year and a half. He might have had some nice spells, but I do. And Smith Rowe just looked absolutely knackered. Yeah, when we played Man U, he looked absolutely knackered. I don't know if he needs a rest or what it was, but
he had a knock, mate. We were talking about it earlier. I don't know if you were in.
I went in.
Quoted that he did,
right,
because I thought he was really poor. Like
he was
outpaced for Dalot. Like
literally, he was so lethargic, but you know, you could tell that. So it's very difficult, and I think we do need to. It's hard to get consistency when you are the youngest squad in the league, and your over 25s are all average players. But this isn't an excuse. I still think like we can get top 4 because it is about beating them 14 other teams that aren't the top 6. Like we can do. But I look at others as well. I looked at Chelsea as well. Chelsea have been fucking shit against the top 4 this season. I mean,
they only beat Leicester. They're the same as us. They've only beat Leicester. They didn't beat anyone.
They drew against United. They
lost to West Ham. They lost to Man City.
West Ham. They lost to City. They've been doing the exact same thing, but no one said anything to them. But they've just played more teams out of the 14. It's difficult. I think really, before I say any more, I want to see what happens in these next 6 games, because these 6 games will be a clear indication on where we're going this season. If we go out and actually do what our business, then hopefully people will be a lot calmer. If we go out and
people will never be calm, mate. People,
they might not be calm, but
they will never be calm.
We literally won. We went on a 10 game, like we conceded only 4 goals, and people were still angry. So
I don't know. I thought the water was quite calm in that street. There was actually a lot of positivity.
It was calm compared to what it was after City. You are right there.
So it's
and there's difficult. A lot of banana peel games in Southampton, West Ham, and Wolves, but they're all home. And for me, the one thing that I'm gonna say too is like I want to be consistent. Like I'm not gonna sit here and point score if those results go positive, which I believe they will, because guys, we have. Quote me, is it not the best home record in the league so far this season?
I will check
it back. Just double check it, because I swear I read something. It doesn't surprise me, because for me the Emirates has been a fortress all season.
It's just Chelsea you've lost, isn't it? Chelsea.
We're second on goal difference to Man City.
Okay, so goal
both
difference.
On 16.
Okay,
'Cause
goal,
we
goal
lost to
difference. So we're
Chelsea
tied
and
with the best
yeah.
home form in the league. So there you
Yeah.
go.
'Cause
And
we lost to Chelsea and drew to Palace. I think that's
yeah,
it.
exactly. And so for me, those are huge when you're talking about the upcoming fixtures with Southampton, who for me, and as well as West Ham, of course, and Wolves. Those are banana peel games from now until Man City. Like when you look at those fixtures, those are teams that are like, ooh, those could be tricky games. And they're all at home. So for me, the narrative is going to switch because if we have positive results there, we're going to be back to the other side of the table. And again, I don't think you can point score and say, see, look, I told you so, because there are issues where you're looking basically at the top four right now, and none of these debates matter until February, March. And when you look at a point swing, I've seen us overcome Spurs of 9 points. Can't remember the year, but I swear it was the year that they were almost top of the league.
It was 15-16, wasn't it? When
15,
Leicester won the
16.
league.
When Leicester won it,
Exactly.
they were set. They finished third in a 2-horse race.
And exactly. And it was a 9-point swing. And that was happened in March, guys. So like I've seen it happen before. So realistically, none of these debates about point scoring, where you see us going this season, matter until that time and until you're within 9 points of top four. That's really the level.
And
Now,
the fact is, no one is consistent enough to actually go on and around. I think us, and I can't even remember anybody else, but we're one
no
of the only
team has
teams.
done more than 4 wins on the bounce, mate.
City have,
Exactly.
Except for
City
City.
have now.
Except for
Exactly.
City.
They just won their last 5.
Yes.
But everyone else has been like getting blips here and there. Like with Chelsea, they've got 2 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. West Ham have a draw, 2 wins, 2 losses. Like everyone around us, like Tottenham, 2 losses, a draw, 2 wins. United, 2 losses, a draw, 2 wins.
Have you
Everyone
seen
around us is
have you
having
seen
these.
Tottenham's games that's coming up as well? Like, have you seen their
Yeah,
runs like in the
I
next
have.
7 games?
It's ridiculous. After Norwich, it's like I think they've got Rennes.
Look,
in
mate,
there.
They've got
no one-
Brighton, Leicester,
Brighton,
Leicester,
Leicester.
Liverpool, West Ham, and Crystal Palace is the next 5.
No
Yeah.
one can predict exactly. We can all have our opinions, and no fan is right or wrong for their opinions. I'm just getting tired of the point scoring. And fundamentally, what I want to see right now is talking about the performance because I still think it's poor. I want to get back on track on United.
Yeah.
I think we'll have a better conversation in the transfer windows for people, maybe on Spaces, to talk about our projections. That's more the forum for it. But I do want to get back to the game. I want to have a Partey discussion, which is basically a midfield discussion on it. Because for me, it was a poor first half in moments on possession, right? And then the second half, he was excellent. Probably our best player, in my opinion, in the second half. And he's responsible for the second goal. He moves us up the pitch. But I think that there's an issue tactically in the role that we've asked him to play. And I've talked about it at length on this channel, on Twitter. Who is Thomas Partey? And I think people continue to misprofile this guy, and it gets so frustrating because when you look at him, okay, he is a box-to-box conducting 8. This is a guy that needs the freedom to play the passes from the middle third into the final third. Those risky between-the-line passes. He can't be the stopper. He can't be the deeper of the two in a pivot. If he is, you're really negating his best attributes in transition. He is very Conte-like in terms of what he prefers to do is nick the ball off you on the run. He doesn't prefer to have play facing him. He doesn't prefer to stop you like a Fernandinho, a Declan Rice, like those types of players. He's not that. He is somebody that is kind of great on the ball, but he plays risky passes. He opens up. He tries to dribble out of trouble. And that isn't good in the first phase. You can't have that with somebody that's essentially the deepest and picking the ball up of the center back. So I think that idea of who Thomas Partey is and having him higher up is the key here. And when you look at it, there should be a discussion about mental personality. So we talk about in football traits that are complementary. So Gabriel White, that's great because we've got a really strong defensive monster and a cultured passer, right? When you look at Thomas Partey, the mental attributes of this guy too is he has a strong personality, but he is not somebody that walks into a room and says, I'm Thomas Partey, if that makes sense. He needs somebody to kind of be authoritative and alpha, but not take away his game. And in order to do that, you need his police dog. You need somebody that will give him the anchor to really step up. And while he can definitely do better on individual moments in possession, because he's had loose moments, he has. I'm not going to lie and sit there that he hasn't had them. But when you look at the role, it was an issue for me to have Mohamed Elneny so high. It was an issue for me not to have Partey a little bit higher up. And when we did, and I don't know about you guys, I wanted to get your opinions. I felt this team clicked. It got into gear when he was higher up. He was given that freedom.
It was the second half.
Goal.
It was the second half. It was the entire
Even
second
in
half.
moments in the first half, he had some moments. He had bad moments, like when he was picking up the ball deep and he tried to dribble out of trouble and Fred caught him. That happened a couple of times, but a lot of his issues came deep. But when he was higher up and when then he was deeper, he looked much better and much more involved in like the goal and stuff like that. But like George did say earlier, like me and him he kept complaining to me like during the game, like, oh my god, Elneny's higher up, and after 5 minutes, like, they're just switching. For now, they're just switching, and they're gonna go back. But he just kept complaining, and it was poor because I initially thought, oh, and then Elneny Partey, it's gonna be like how it was last time. Elneny will be deeper, and they'll both be winning draws and pressing in midfield, and it will bode well because last time versus United at Old Trafford, they were incredible together, but the roles seemed very, very different in the game, and whenever Partey was deeper, it just caused big issues for us, like very big issues, especially building out. Because the first 20 minutes, I thought we were very, very good building out from the back and pressing that. They couldn't press us because we were just picking them off easily with our passes. And when we pressed them, we did very well, especially with Martinelli, because he caused a lot of turnovers on Tellers, like 1v1 when he was pressing him. But after like the 20-minute and Elneny staying very high, we just lost any sort of control and just started dropping deeper and deeper. And then I could see Arteta like
trying to move them forward.
Yeah, move them forward, but the players just weren't doing it. And the goal came from us just being too deep and Sancho picking a beautiful pass and then them scoring. But yeah, Partey on his role, Partey didn't like he deserved some of the stick he was getting because he caused us issues on the ball. But like for people to say he's like done and stuff, it's just absurd for me because I think it's just a bit of form, to be fair.
It's not even, you know what it is? And it goes to the point that George was mentioning about that he's not I'm not going to say he's not a lead. He's a technical leader and he's someone that is a big personality in that room and in the room when he's there. But my thing is what I was so disappointed about Thomas is I felt like he needed to be that guy on the pitch just to like pull players up because we were lacking that leader on the pitch that was just going, okay, guys, get up, stop
Emile was
back.
dropping. Emile was like, guys, we have to. I want to be fair. Like, I was surprised. I walked out of the game. I love Emile. Out of all the guys here, I love Emile. But there was a big issue with
this is true
with him not stepping up, guys. Like he was poor, and I was just surprised that no one said anything about Emile. Right, and I was just like,
because he scored, by the way. It's because he scored.
Yeah, because he scored. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Who scored?
Emile.
Well, I don't know about that, guys. Like it was a pretty crappy goal
George,
from
know
David
when you score, like
when you score, George, you know this.
Clouds everything with your performance.
Twitter monologue only revolves around GA.
Do you guys remember that moment when Aubameyang flicked the ball to Emile, and that was the point where I realized something was wrong because for Emile not to even go past the player, I realized like he's looking very leggy or he looks injured, and he was limping. He limped straight after, and he went off. So obviously he was carrying an injury. And you're right. And now the fact that it's come out that he was dropping off. But look, that's one of the main reasons we couldn't even press. We couldn't even press them because he was dropping off. And Arteta on the side, you could see him from on the sideline. He went to and was like, go push, press, and all Emile Smith Rowe was doing was dropping back. And now that, like I said, the injuries has just come out on the news, it just makes a lot of sense why Elneny was doing the role he was doing, and Partey, despite his issues on the ball, he was actually doing two people's role in one goal.
But that's why it was disorganized, mate. So then you've got Emile dropping in, who has no outlet at the top. You've got Mo pushing up, leaves Thomas on an island, and you're like, oh shit, like it's so disorganized. Then you add Bukayo Saka, who on the right is our other ball progressor who's not there, right? And you then basically have Martin Odegaard, who hasn't been reliable, but he's on his own. And again, I don't want to critique him. It's the one game I'll give him a pass because he doesn't have a second ball progressor with him to help him out. And so that's why things collapsed. You don't have anybody to help you keep the ball at the top. At the back, Mo was pushing up probably to help out Emil and get that pressure, but he left Thomas on an island, and it was very disorganized. And you've got space in midfield. And then at that point, you're like, okay, this is a transition game, and we're hoping for our forwards who haven't been clinical all season to be clinical. Like that is the game that you're hoping for at that point. So I was just very disappointed. It was probably a culmination of a lot of little things, but for me, I was disappointed in how we approached the game because, like I said, when we turned it on, and I don't know what you guys felt, but I felt we ripped them, and especially at the
I
goal.
think we were good.
Yeah, like at the 65th minute, again, quote me if that was the goal, but I swear, once it went 2-2 at that point, we were on the front foot. I could see us. It looked like we were more likely to score, and then we do a self-destruct button with Martin, who I don't want to single out because, you know, I think that's not right. That's not what we should do. It's not one person, but you know, it's the fact that for me, we weren't coordinated in our press, we weren't coordinated in our build-up, and we struggled in the things that we did well up until this point. Yeah. So for me, we do have to change some things. I do think that with Granite back, things are going to change, but Kieran needs to come back. I've been saying it for a while. I don't understand the Nuno persistence. I felt he would cost us, particularly in build-up, and he did, because him pressing up was the reason for their second goal. Even the Ronaldo
the space
goal,
behind us.
It wasn't pressing up. It was him a poor layoff and just sprinting. He was gone. Like
yeah,
his
but he was
first
gone,
thought,
Chris. Like
his first thought was go. That's a big issue. He has no tempo control.
Yeah,
like in that moment, as soon as Maguire, like everyone saw the ball was going short, so it was going to be Nuno's ball.
Yeah,
and the layoff was poor, and you could see Emil wasn't fit in that layoff just because he couldn't run. He couldn't run back and get the ball. So the layoff was poor, and he left Rashford free to pick out the good pass and a great finish from Ronaldo. But for him to just touch it and go, just shows where his mentality is and the difference, because he had no tempo control, and it can be taught. And Arteta has taught many of our players it before, but like what he did there is very evident of what he needs to learn and what like is bad in his game right now, because that's an issue for him to just vacate space as soon as he touched the ball.
But I wanna ask, like, is there any, like, apart from, because Partey I think we've covered now, but like, is there anyone on that pitch that you think, okay, we need to talk about right now? Because it's just, I think
Martinelli. I want to end on a positive.
Yeah,
unless you want to keep going on cons, but
my boy.
I feel like we should just go with the negative one before we go in the positive one, because that's the way we should end it.
I want to end it on a positive.
Yeah.
So
who do you want to talk about?
So I generally I feel like, you know, we haven't spoken about. I feel like our defensively we weren't the greatest, and I feel like Ben White should have like should be spoken about. I don't know. He wasn't he wasn't the greatest on the ball, and I feel like just before the first goal we conceded, and he gave the ball away, but also he wasn't tracking his man in the box, and it's one of the reasons I think. Was it the second goal or the first goal where he lost his man? And I don't know. He just didn't look like as
first goal.
It was first goal. Yeah, he just didn't look like defensively secure. Like he's very good at that. He's very good at, you know, being tight to his man and making those tackles. Just that game, I don't know if it was just the occasion or something. He just didn't look like the player that, you know.
You mean when he dropped off Fred?
No, it was just in the box for me. For me, it was just
but I'm saying when because it was Fred.
He dropped off Fred, but
he dropped off Fred, and Fred made that pass into.
He was poor against Ronaldo as well.
Yeah,
like very poor whenever he engaged Ronaldo.
That slide tackle when he went in, that was terrible.
It was very poor. But like with White, I just think nerves were in him weirdly. I think off the ball, he was very poor, because generally he's very strong. Even though he can lose his aerial duels, he's very strong in duels generally, regardless of where it is on the pitch. But he just didn't seem.
His ground duels are very, very good.
Gabriel was good.
He was really good. He made one pass to Tavares, like he switched it, and Tavares was through. But Tavares was just, I don't know. He was very dodgy on the ball, and also like I think something was it. George said something about Tomiyasu and stuff. I feel like. That was one game where I feel like we needed an overlapping right back. He wasn't making the runs at all.
Yeah,
You could see Martinelli trying to hold the whip, and he was waiting. Odegaard wasn't running. That guy was static the entire game. But Martinelli was waiting for someone to overlap so that he can go in inside, and and Tomiyasu just stood there and stood there. And this was the game where I was crying out for someone to overlap. And my lord, I feel like, yeah, we should have even brought Ainsley on if we needed, if we needed to attack down that right. It was just that game, and we didn't do it. There were so many flaws in that game, man. Honestly.
It was a poor game. It was just a poor game in general. I mean, um, I think just the biggest thing for me was the midfield and Nuno. I think you add basically, if you add Kieran and you add Ainsley, I do think that we win. I think a lot of our issues right now have been in that midfield position and getting out from the build-up. This was a very isolated game, and it would be a worry if it's a pattern in the future because there were a lot of things that we were just really poor with. On and off the ball, there were just tons of really poor errors. And on the day, I said it at the beginning of the pod, I felt it was an emotional game, guys. Like, I don't think it was tactically. Like, we can sit here and pick apart in hindsight about things that were wrong and right. And I do think there were some personnel and tactical issues from the get-go. I was very upset some of the lineup decisions. But all in all, you look at White, you look at some of these players that we've talked about, concentration and the occasion got to them. And there were a lot of uncharacteristic things that we saw. And I just feel we need to kind of go back to basics in a bit. And I think Kieran coming back opens both sides of the attack a lot more from what we've seen because we funneled through the right kind of for the last 5 games very consistently. We haven't opened up the left nearly as often as we
it's
could.
the personnel choices though, mate. It's just like for me, it's why are we? Because in years past, in last year, for example, our main outlet was through that left. We would have Kieran on the overlap. You'd have David Luiz making that switch, or Granit trying to find him to Kieran, and that would be our main outlet. This year, our main outlet is Bukayo, and I love that. It's great. So my thing is, I really, really feel like we just need to look at that left side and analyze it. What do we want to achieve out of it? Where do we want that team to be going? Do we want to be 5 channels, everyone, both fullbacks up, or do we want to have an invert? Do we want to invert one side and go long? The other, like, where do we want to go with it? For me, I think with Xhaka coming back as well, and when I do come back, I'm going to be talking about Xhaka constantly because it's going to be a massive thing, and it's just going to be, you're going to have the ability to look at that left-hand side and think, okay, we have a mechanism that has worked and been tried and tested in times past, so we can use it, and there's a very good reason to use it. So I don't know, we'll see. I mean, and the other thing is, before, and this is going to transition to massively perfectly, that left-hand creator on the left-hand side is going to be vital for top 4. Now, it's not even a question of maybe it would secure it. It would be a great thing to do. It needs to happen now. We all know that everyone who watches the show knows that we prefer Samawa, and I think that it's vital now. We need to have someone of that ilk at the club to just take the load off Emil, allow us to look at someone to go out to in when Kieran goes in to out in that foot to run, and to create that wide overload on the left-hand side. So that's just me. I think the funny thing is the left-hand side was great last year. Now it's the right-hand side that's great this year. And we just have to combine the two, and hopefully we'll get to where we need to be. But yeah, Martinelli, very, very good, both on the right and on the left. I loved everyone. I'm sure everyone saw the whole when he jinked through those 2 players. I think it was Dallo.
Sancho. It was Sancho and Dallo, I think.
Yeah, it was Dallo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So it was a lovely piece of skill. I'm not gonna lie, he needs to look up because there was one that obviously he doesn't.
He dribbles with his head down.
He needs to, man.
He can't though, Current, and this is why I say what I say about him being a striker. And in fact, a lot of people will point to his movement and that little jink, but you know what excited me? His burst through the middle, picking up from deep, clearing 2 lines, and then the pass to Aubameyang at the point that it was 2-2. That for me was like, yeah, he's done that his entire time with us. He's been able to
Yeah.
pick up the ball, head down, drive. And like for me, I think him being in form is going to be massive for a shot in the arm to this front line that's looking a little jaded. We've got our two players, basically Keown and Emil, who have carried us that have knocks or are unfit. And basically having another person like that to release and have a reliable outlet is going to be huge for you in terms of getting out. Now we just need to combine the balance behind a little bit more. And I think in terms of the links about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we said on this channel, if I had a gun to my head and, people said, George, you're getting a striker no matter what you want. I've said Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the guy that Mikel would get and that we should be getting in terms of having that physical outlet that can run the channels as well. But it's not, and who would also get the best out of Martin Odegaard in terms of who we have right now. But I don't think that was necessarily the issue. The biggest thing for me was the big midfield disorganization. You fix those things, a lot of the chance creation methods are going to improve. We're going to finally get up the pitch. And then it comes down to our attacking patterns in the final third.
And then also ball striking from midfield, mate. Ball striking from midfield is another thing for me. I feel like we're missing out goals from midfield a lot. We're dropping. We just don't have those.
Well, our best one is Emil. And so
Emil, yeah, that's it.
Get him in the attacking midfielder position. Get him closer to Bukayo Saka. Let him combine a bit. But in order to do that, you're going to need to essentially recruit a wide playmaker. Who's some more. That's essentially what you're going to be looking at. But for me, the Dominic Calvert-Lewin links make complete sense. It's something that we've said,
we've already said
in previous times. So it's not a surprise to me. But again, I do want to get back to Martinelli. The biggest thing with me that I've seen changed in his game right now was there was a lot more consideration for when to go and when not to go. And what I mean by that is he was very calculated in terms of his off-the-ball penetration and how he took charge of the ball when he did have it. He wasn't loose with it. He did slow down. He attacked when he needed to attack. So I think he was a very good, mature performance, where on the day it was an immature performance from so many, but one of our youngsters had a very mature performance. I thought he could hold his head up high. Gabriel and Tommy off the ball could hold his head high. I think he did very well in duels with Sancho, but yeah, he struggled on it a bit, as a lot of people did.
We got pressed out with it though, Tommy, when he was on it. A lot of the time, Man U did press us out well on that right-hand side. We would do try and get little triangles, but every time he had to kick long.
Yeah, Sancho was good. I just wanted to add.
Sancho, again, I said earlier, Sancho and Maguire best on the pitch.
Because going into the game, we were here and predicting the game. I thought Sancho would give us a problem, even though I didn't want the game for him to start turning up at home, be Arsenal. But I always thought something about his run, because he was very good against Villarreal getting the goal, and then good versus Chelsea getting the goal again. I just thought he'd be on a run, and for him, it was a good performance and good to build from all the hate he was getting on the timeline. Because I was even seeing YouTubers on Sharky's channel, someone was going, "Oh so wavy, oh so wavy. I've been seeing your tweets. You need to stop the format, the Sancho tweets." But yeah, Sancho was very good, and aside from Arsenal, I liked that he was good, to be fair. But yeah, Martinelli was our best player on the pitch and can hold it, and he did get deserved praise for what he did, because he had a big involved with the assist for the goal, and he was by far our best presser. So yeah,
it wasn't even his best moment for me. It was that central run. For me, that was his best moment, on the pitch, because I feel that second goal.
Which central run?
In the second half, after 2-2, he picks it up deep and bursts through three players.
That's what that's for the Oba thing.
Yeah.
That was the thing that happened in the 65th minute. Odegaard scored in the 54th minute.
Exactly. And that for me was oh god, if that had worked out, we'd be talking about it.
He also had a chance on his left foot when he combined well with Odegaard
at the beginning.
He should have pulled that back to Smith Rowe though.
Yeah, he should have pulled it back.
That's when people say about.
Well, if he was going to shoot his left foot,
no, he 100% should have pulled it back. Even at the angle, even at that angle, it was tight. The angle he's shooting on his left foot. If he pulls that back to Smith Rowe, it's like the kind of angle where he scored against Leicester.
should
I
have
don't
at
know.
least put it
I'm
on
not
target.
upset. I'm not upset with that one. I'll be honest with you. When you're a striker, you're 8 yards out. He just struck it very poor. Like if he struck it clean and it's on target, there's a good chance that's going in. I'm not terribly upset with it.
Right. Anyway, let's do final
Maybe in
thoughts.
a year, Willow. I do agree though. In a year, he probably makes that cutback. You know what I mean? Like in a year, he's probably able, but I don't know if he'll ever be able to lift his head up like that. I'll be honest with you.
You just look at the kind of Wenger times of always trying to find that extra pass, and it's just like that's the kind of time where you look for it. But I'm very happy with Martinelli's performance.
We'll do final thoughts. I'll do the sign off this time after last time's fiasco. But we'll do final thoughts going from George and then round up to myself. So George, you go first, mate.
Yeah, I think final thoughts, the biggest frustration, and when I watched it back, I thought I would get a little bit more positives, but I kind of got more angry as I was watching it back. And it was just because the entire structure of the game, we didn't do anything right from how we normally do. We didn't do our build-up correctly. I had a disorganized press. I felt like the team in general was not firing in the best ways it's been firing this entire season. So for me, very much a weird day where a lot of things went wrong tactically, but I think personnel as well. But on the whole, I'd probably rather people just get back to basics. I would like to see Keown back for Everton. He has to come back for Everton. You want to pursue with Lokonga, it's not my choice. I would prefer Ainsley Maitland-Niles, but the biggest thing that we need in midfield, get Partey higher up, stop having him receive deeper. Granit Xhaka is back in training, so which is a surprise to me. I mean, he's been out for long enough that regardless, I think he needs a practice game. So people getting their hopes up for Everton, it's 100% he's out for that. He'll need an under-23 game just to get the cobwebs up, and I do think Southampton will come a couple days early. It's probably up to the coach, the medical staff. That'll be like a daily assessment at that point. But I'd book the following week for him really to be back in the fold. So in that case, I'd want us to have Partey a little bit higher up, and I just want us to get back to some of the basic fundamentals. Keep the lines tight. Don't keep the space in midfield. This was a very uncharacteristically poor game. And I'd like us just to get back to a lot of our fundamentals. And if it continues, it's a worry for sure. But this game was very emotional. I think this is a day not necessarily for tactics, definitely not for conclusions and sweeping conclusions like people have been making. But it was a very emotional game, very typical to the occasion. And I think this inexperienced squad wasn't able to ride to it on this occasion. But I don't really fear too much for Everton, who are in an even worse mindset than ourselves. So I'm excited for Everton to show us kind of the bounce back again, but I still don't think there's a point scoring that you can really, really do in regards to, if we do well at Everton, then we're back on the right track. But equally, if it didn't happen, we can say that everything's over. And no, mush, top 4 hopes are not over. No.
All right, go on, Z. I don't know where Willow's gone, but he must have disconnected.
No, look, guys, so obviously we can't just base our whole predictions on just on one game. I mean, I was talking to CK earlier on the timeline, and we were having this debate about Aubameyang and stuff. And it was like, so do you think Aubameyang is going to cost you the league or something like that? And my point is, or cost you the top 4. Sorry. And my point is, I can't just judge it based on one game, and I can't just judge it based on the next game either. It has to be a good sample of games for me to understand where we are, where we're at. Because for everything else, there could be injuries. There could be so many factors that changes the whole momentum and where we could finish. So I'm not looking too much into that. But just to put this game into context, there's been a massive overreaction from fans where they've decided this game to be the one where they've drawn the line, and I find that bizarre. And they've also used this game as a way to start as a way to start abusing some of the fans that have been a bit more optimistic. And I don't know. I feel like you guys that have been doing that, you need a long, hard look at yourselves, because I feel like you guys should be much better than that. Honestly, like I was at the game. Everybody that was at the game with me despite us losing, we weren't as negative as these guys on Twitter and all these other social media platforms. And I don't know, how, if even if we were to lose against Everton, I wouldn't react the way these guys did, man. And honestly, and yeah, I just hope. Though I feel like we're gonna do a preview tomorrow, anyways, for the Everton game. So I'd rather have my thoughts on the game tomorrow. But like, stop the overreaction, man. The league isn't over. Top four isn't over. It was just 3 points, and that's it, man.
So good.
Well, for me, overview. Sancho had a good game. That's my guy, innit? Let's be honest. I'll be honest. That's my guy. So Sancho had a good game. The race for top four is more like, for a neutral, is more like enlightening. We were poor in general to make it like a basketball match and a very transition based game, which is negative because it means we didn't play to our strengths rather and play to United's strength and still had a chance. I feel like the narrative on certain players with Partey and Aubameyang, with Aubameyang, even me, one of his biggest supporters, he's very much annoyed me and very much still believe that he's going to get a lot of goals this season, and I understand some of the frustration, but like I feel like it's gone too far. And Gabriel and White, it was probably one of the poorest games together overall in comparison to some of the great performances they've had, and Ramsdale with another very good game to save us because Ronaldo had a big chance when he cut in on his left and saved it. So yeah, there were big chances both ways and big like weird situations both ways where both teams gave the other team a goal. But like, it's not a game that determines what's going to happen at the end of the season or determines what's going to happen in your next game. The next game is more important to see how we bounce back and how much it affects us. And then yeah, like I'm not going to talk about Everton because we'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll take it in. That's my last one.
So for me, first things first, okay. I don't care about anyone else's opinion anymore. I'm sorry, I don't. I really am struggling to find the ability in people to stay consistent or have the intelligence to be able to see what the hell is actually happening. I'm seeing people say, well, I did before I deleted the goddamn app. I was hearing people say that everything is done. We're finishing 10th from one game when we're still 2 points ahead of United. I'm seeing people say that this was a free hit. I want to tell you right now, there is no game in this league that is a free hit. There is no such thing as a free hit. Every game is 3 points. Every game is equal. Okay? There are games that can help form narratives which are stupid. I'm just analyze the game, people. I don't really care. But you look, as I said before, look at 10 game samples, look at 5 game samples, look at how things are progressing through the season. I'm hearing things that I'm so tired. And I'm not tired from the narratives, because I'll be honest, the fact that I don't give a crap about your opinions anymore really has really helped the last 24 hours. I really don't care, because I'm seeing people who are going from posting Arteta fan cams to having Arteta with a machine gun in his hand. Okay, I'm seeing people post I'm seeing people go from posting Vibes FC to you know what I mean? Like he's on a carpet with a goddamn
if we win our game in hand, current, okay, we're 1 point with outside of top 4, having done Liverpool, Etihad, Old Trafford in the bank. If you're telling me that there's no chance of that relating to a top 4 challenge, then you're not being objective. You simply are just not being objective.
And I'll address this because it's fine. It's a perfectly fine criticism. Look, I'm not saying everyone's valid to their opinion. I don't have your opinion. I don't mind your opinion. But for me, I will form my own opinion regardless of other people. I will listen to people. I'll have respect for people. I'm on a podcast with 3 other people. I'm gonna listen to them all the time. You know what I mean? I'm not like someone that's gonna just be like, "Oh, screw you, Arteta in. He's the best on my knees." You know what I mean? That's not my deal. My thing is form your own opinion. Don't just go from one point to the other because people around you are saying things, and just listen to whatever narrative. If you want to have an opinion, have an opinion. And I'll talk to anyone. I don't mind talking to people. My thing is, I am done with trying to convince people about things. I'm done with it. I will talk to you guys. I will give you my opinion, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to be something, some kind of yes, oh, chat or Twitter is, oh, I need to answer everyone's opinions, because everyone's opinions aren't equal in terms of their validity. Everyone's ability to actually make a point is not the same. Everyone's opinion value is the same, but the validity of their points are the same. So I'm not going to say
I'm
fine. I'm
bro.
sorry.
Don't worry about
I'm
that.
like, you know
I'm
what I
just
mean. It is what it is. But the fact of the matter is I'm gonna take a break anyway. I'm gonna take a 10 to maybe 14-day break. I'm gonna get away from this game. I need a reset, and there's nothing to do with Twitter. Nothing to do with Twitter. Is the fact is my just mentally I'm broken down a bit. I need to stop watching football as much. I need to do other things, and I need to look after my own health. So I'm gonna take a bit of a break. The other, all 4 of these guys are great people, and they're gonna be fine for you. I will still post my predictions. Don't worry about it for the table, but I'm happy. I'm very happy with what's happening, and I really am happy with where the podcast is going. So,
Well, the one
on
thing
that,
I do want to
yeah,
clarify, Curran, mate, before you do sign off, because
mm,
I think it's been misinterpreted. It was more not it's not the chat that is not being cared about. We care about everybody in the chat, and we really prefer diverse opinions. It's much more the vitriol that's taken place, and I think I have a bit of a thicker hide, having done this a little bit longer from the amount of DM requests. But ultimately, what you have to understand is the fact that if somebody has a different opinion than yourself, you can't be sending abuse to people. That's not what we stand for here on this channel. We stand for respectful discourse. We're happy to have everybody's type of opinions, everybody to come in and do it. But at the end of the day, we're not going to flip opinions. And I heard this thing online, and I didn't recognize this was actually a thing. But you guys got to let me know. But I think rivals believe that Arsenal fan base is the biggest flip flop fan base, and that's what I was told was the narrative from rivals. Like every rival has kind of a different opinion of yourself. And I think one of the biggest things is a lot of rivals believe that Arsenal flip flop. And at first I was like, is that true? Like, I don't know. I feel like every fan base flip flops, to a decent perspective. But, the more I'm on Twitter, the more I'm exposed to this type of
You're
thing.
not wrong,
I'm
bro.
kind of like, shit, they may have a point, like Chelsea
They are
fans
right.
love to quote tweet you. And they do the quote tweets with weird things on stats.
Champions
They love,
League. Yeah, they go Champions League.
they love to do that. United fans, they're very, very arrogant typically, I find. They do overestimate their true decisions. And then you've got like the only calm ones for me have been City, where they're like, we're just happy to be here, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know too many.
A lot of them didn't support City 10 years ago.
Yeah, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't do that. And so, I mean, every fan base has got their certain thing, but I don't want it to come across like that. I think one of the big things that we don't stand for is kind of abuse, which is something that we've seen, and I've seen a lot of narrative from in general on points that I think a lot of people have flipped their opinions and they're looking at one game results to define your point of view. And one of my favorite words that everybody who knows me in group chats, apagogical, little dictionary definition of what that means.
I will.
One game doesn't mean
Yeah.
that's logic for an opinion. That is logic. That is what apagogical means, and that basically means you can't base your opinion off one game. You can't validate your opinion based off one game. Ultimately, we're going to be looking at processes. Ultimately, what we're going to be looking at is the game. I did want to end. This was a very poor day for us because it was a game that was absolutely there to be taken. We didn't do it. We became an Emery team under an Arteta tenure, which
It
hasn't
really
happened
was. That's
often.
such a good way of putting it.
Yeah, we had an Emery game, and for me,
because of the
that is
spaces in
not
midfield,
this team.
it's not acceptable.
It was poor. It was poor.
It's
It
just
was
not
an
acceptable.
Emery game,
It was very
and
poor.
with our clinical forwards that aren't clinical.
Anymore.
Look,
Anymore.
all I'm going to say is, because I'll do the sign off this time. All I'm going to say is, look, it's
Yeah.
the rate that actually the amount of racism I got in my DMs in about 20 minutes was ridiculous.
Same.
Like it was
You should
actually
see how many yank. I actually kind of I wonder how many superlatives you can add before you get to yank. So I have like maybe it's the wrong way to look at it, and like I don't know, maybe this is gonna piss off people more. So bring it on. But like I wonder how many DMs I can get until I get to yank. So like it's like you effing no good soft-haired yank, and like I wonder how many words I can get until it gets to that word.
Look, my thing is it's not even about the racism. For me, I'm watching way too much football per day, and literally, I'm watching 4, maybe 5 90s a game, making notes and making threads, and it's not. This whole game was sort of just like a wake up call to be like, I'm just tired. I'm very, very tired, and I needed a bit of a break. And I'm not going to be crying or whining about it. It's just I need to reset, and I need to just I want to produce better content for you guys. So I want to produce. That's my whole thing. I don't want it to be sort of like I flood things and it doesn't produce well. It's
put up this last comment from Nashville. This is actually from a Canadian.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know it is.
I'm 100% gonna be using that, Nashville. But yeah. And no, look, guys, the biggest thing that I did want to get across, though, regardless of your opinion of whether you think something's a pattern or not, because, I do disagree, that it's just one game and it's a pattern. No, I don't think that we've had basketball games this season. It distinctly is. This particular game was very off-putting for a lot of reasons. And if it continues, happy to call it a pattern. But no, I disagree that this game was like the rest. It really wasn't for me. But we move on. Let's see what happens during Everton. I hope that there's a massive response in terms of how we play. And then moving on, we have a bunch of winnable fixtures. So we'll save our thoughts for the preview on Everton. But thank you guys so much. Should I do the robot thing?
Yeah, do the robot thing. You got it.
All right. Very clean. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you remember that when we upload. Make sure to follow us at BoP Footy on Twitter. And trust me, guys, we've got a lot of content coming up. So the games are going to come thick and fast. We're going to try to get your previews out. I am so tired from my personal work life. We've got a lot of stuff coming up, but we will get the content out for you. We will be hosting some BoP Spaces over the break. So if you're really looking forward to some of those longer discussions, you guys seem to like them, make sure that you comment on topics for us to discuss. Arsenal, West Ham. We love topics about outside just Arsenal. We're going to address them in some of those spaces. But yeah, keep with us, guys. I don't agree that, things are doomed, but equally, we do have to keep a little bit perspective. We're on a decent pace right now. Let's hope that the boys change our fortunes and we're back with the other side of being overly optimistic that we've turned a corner and we're now the best team in the league. I kid, in case somebody in the comments takes that seriously. But yeah.
All right. Go on.
Oh, me. Follow me at PureCKK on Twitter. Follow obviously Willow left, so follow the one Willow. And thank you for getting BoP Footy to 477 followers. We got
mad.
That's mad.
500. When did that happen?
Yeah, we got after the United loss, we got 40 followers, 50 followers.
What?
We will take engagement.
Yeah,
good
so much.
Good press and bad press is all good, isn't it?
Finally follow Priv Arsenal Z on Twitter, and I'll sign off. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, lads. Follow current BoP if you do have the chance. But see you later. Take care and peace, lads.
Peace.
Bye.